MacGyver, let me read your thing. So you're working on an app that lets you talk with people that share your interest, just like on Omegle, but on specific on categories. You made a design mock-up and you're writing a business plan. Do I have any tips for finding an investor or any tips for a very early stage startup? So I can't really click on the link, but congratulations, man. First of all, there's really simple things that come up when you try to pitch. How are you going to make money? Why do you need the money? How much are you willing to give up in the company? Who's on your team? And what is your vision for today? And what's your vision for tomorrow? So if you don't have a working app right now, you need to get that done probably before you get an investor. And the reason for that is there's so many people that have these ideas. They want to see something that works. So you need to be able to demo it. Unless it's some like earth-shattering piece of technology, you need to be able to demo it. And if it's not an earth-shattering piece of technology, they're probably not going to look at it until it's done. And once it's done, you really need to show traction as well. So they're not going to pour money on something that's not proven. If you need an investor, if you absolutely need one, you need to find somebody who you know. Like you need to find like a family member or something like that, or one of your partner's family members, because there's really not too much capital that's just floating around for random people that don't have networks and stuff like that. But again, if you're early stage, what I would say you do is don't worry too much about getting an investor. So I think that there's no way without a demo, even a prototype made in XD? Hell no. Nope. The last time I pitched, I was pitching an app that I had 150 design screens done for. It was, I wrote 200,000 or 300,000 lines of code to get some of the algorithmic stuff laid out and some of to basically figure out all the data models and some of the algorithms that would go into it. Just so I could say, like, I figured these pieces out, right? It was a massive app, absolutely massive. And I had a good business plan. I had a good pitch deck. My business plan was a couple 100 pages long. My pitch deck, we had the short ones that were like 5-10 pages, right? I also had ones that were like 40 or 50 pages long. We thoroughly defined and showed the market exists. We showed that we had interest from the market, meaning we had people who were ready to commit to buying it. And what we basically needed was money to push the idea into reality before we started taking money from pre-sales or anything like that, or rather saying, hey, pre-sale person, sign a contract. We didn't want to just do that. And let me tell you, it was crickets. It was like I would pitch people and they would say, it sounds really awesome. You need to have it working. You need to have customers before we'll talk to you. And I'm like, well, it's a chicken egg problem. Like I was like, this is $1 million, $2 million of dev that I have to put into it to get it to that point. They're like, figure it out. So there, you might be able to find somebody who's like totally cool with giving you a little bit of money to make a prototype. And I don't mean an XD prototype. I mean like a functional, people can log into it, buy it, etc. prototype. You might find somebody, but the amount of money you'll get is maybe max out $50,000, maybe 100. And that's really not enough money to do it. What you need is people on your side that are just going to do it regardless of funding coming in. And you like, if you're building a startup, you have to, at least my opinion is, unless you're like, oh, your startup deals with warp drives or interdimensional travel or like the cure for cancer, it's software. Just throw time at it and it'll be done. If you have nobody who's experienced and you say you need a lot of money to make it work for marketing. Yeah. Welcome to everybody else trying to launch an app. This is the problem. You have to differentiate. Like, why are they going to give you any money? Yeah. If you have connections, if you have a network, there's a really good chance that someone will float you the money if they like you. But as a random person pitching to an accelerator, an incubator, or generally just venture capital is not going to touch you, not without traction. An incubator might bring you in. An accelerator might bring you in, but that's as far as you'll go. Accelerator, incubator. And again, not enough money to pay your bills. I mean, you could get into one of the best incubators or accelerators, in the country, and they won't give you more than a couple tens of thousands of dollars. Like, they don't have much laying around. they're basically throwing money at you, and they're just like, that should cover ramen and rent, you know? So Bobby, you said the problem with finding somebody experienced is that you have experience with peer-to-peer video streaming, and you could help him out, but you can't afford to work for free. Yeah. Bobby, that was the same thing. That's my biggest problem too, is I only have so much time. I can only work on one thing at a time. I'm at the point now where I don't pursue money in projects anymore. Like, I don't do client work. I don't look at an app and say, will this make money? Okay, I'll only work on it if it makes money. I have a little more flexibility because we're doing content here, and if it makes for good content, it makes for a good project for me to work on. And that situation where you have people that could help you out, but they're not going to be able to pay their bills if they help you out. And not many people will work on an equity play either. Because if you're throwing out equity plays, like big equity plays early in a business, I will never work with you. Ever. Unless the equity was 50%. I would literally say, you give me 51% of your company, you give me control of your company, and I'll work on it. But that's not to you. But that's sort of the phrase I would have. Is because I'm like, at that point, I'd be like, you're not fit to run a company if you're throwing out double-digit equity for volunteer work, you know? Like, it's really hard, man. It's really hard. You can have a really good idea and you bring it to market and it doesn't work. You can have a really good idea and you execute nothing on it and it gets picked up by VC, but that's just few and far between. The failure rate on startups is like 1 in 40, even with funding. So it's kind of crazy. So 1 in 40, that number might be too big. I think it's 2.5% make it. And that's all it needs to hit. I might have that number way wrong. Don't quote me on that number. But it's not big. That's again, with money, with expertise, with people who know what the hell they're doing. So it's like, why would they invest in somebody who doesn't know what they're doing over somebody who does? Yeah, MacGyver, so a big thing when you're working on applications, I would say one of the most important people you can bring in is somebody that just all they do is keep you organized. That's it. They just keep you guys productive. They are able to map your idea out. They might not even be somebody who's developing it, but it's somebody to tell you, don't develop that, develop this. This is what you guys should be working on. Forget about this other stuff. You got to trust them and just do what they say. That's something that only comes with, in my opinion, that only comes with a lot of experience to say, like, to look at a product offering and say, like, that's the stuff you need and that's the stuff you don't need. And you're gonna have to trust them, because if everybody's working in different directions, or if you guys are coding the hell out of something that really doesn't bring value to the customer, which happens a lot, then, you know, you're never gonna feel like good about it. Yeah. The motivation organization is a big part. Yeah. And Bobby, you launched 3 startups and you made some money before losing most of your customers. Oh God. Yeah, they made 2 and nearly 0. Yeah. I mean, it's really, what do you consider a startup too? When you say I've launched a startup, I'm in this, like, we've created a immunity buffer here. So what we have at Omatum is we have an incubator, which is what I'm working on projects for all the time. And we have a studio, which is what these guys work on. They're more or less like, I have this supposition that give me like 2 years of having put out money for editors. And these guys are cool too. Like, they're fun to have in the office. But give me a couple of years of that, and we might have enough money coming in from YouTube where we can sort of like just work on whatever we want to without actually fully funding it, but with, like, we're not losing money, if that makes sense. And I just think that it doesn't matter what project you want to work on, like software wise, there is no guarantee. You could think it's the best thing ever and there's no guarantee. Google could come out and drop a product that's exactly your thing and they got all the market share. That's really freaky. Or like, you could have some niche-y thing that works because something doesn't exist from a vendor and the vendor adds it as a core feature, you know? And now all your technology is gone and somebody else copies it in a day. So we're trying to buttress against it. That's not how it will work for everybody. We're putting out a ton of money to do this. Like, those guys are not volunteers, you know, but I really hope it works out for you, MacGyver. Dude, you can come into our Discord. I think I linked that right above. You can come in there and like you can ask questions in there. We've got product people in there. You know, we got ways to help you out. I mean, not funding. You're not going to get funding. I don't think. But we can at least point you in the right direction.